ciao.
Hey now.
Hey now. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. And if you are listening to this, you can also watch it on YouTube and vice versa. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also listen on all the favorite platforms.
All the social media platforms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are here with our very special guest, Denise Lamoureux. Did I get that right?
You did it perfect.
I'm so glad.
Perfect.
Okay, I did it once, and I want to make sure I got it right the second time as well. Yes. So, what you want to tell? You want to tell a little about, or why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, give us a little brief synopsis about yourself.
Sure. Okay. So I'm a trauma healer now. I specialize in the effects of childhood experiences and how they affect us today and how they run in our brain and neural networks and how we automatically react to them and live through them.
And let me
So
just
what
cut
I
in real
started
quick.
out.
Denise, let me just cut in real quick and tell our listeners this is going to be exciting because she's telling you what she does, but Richard actually did a session with her, so he's going to be able to report how it went.
I have real life experience.
He does. And had I known you were coming, I always was going to text you. I didn't see your name until late today, and I was like, I should have given her one.
Okay, so
because I think it's good, but I was a restaurant owner is what I did. I bought a restaurant when I was 29. It was 1989. I'm 65 now. And in 1989, women and young girls certainly didn't buy restaurants. So it was kind of very adventurous. And I got married after, and I had 2 boys. And I ended up getting divorced when they were really, really little. So I was a single mom with a restaurant, and I was very, very successful. And I was kind of the toast of the town at a, maybe like 32, 33.
Wow.
And yeah, but the thing was, everything looked great, right? So I was making some money. I bought myself this house in Westport. I had the Mercedes, the ski condo. On the outside, everything looked great. Inside, I was a mess. I couldn't have a healthy relationship. I suffered from severe anxiety, panic attacks, always waiting for the other shoe to drop, and really, not happy. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with, of course, what are we going to say? What's the matter with me?
Yeah.
Right? What's the matter with me? And all of a sudden I found Chardonnay, and oh my God, didn't that change my life, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't have any anxiety. Now and then I started to do the local television cooking segment. I started to all kinds of stuff, and I became even more successful. But I was still a mess. So I went up in search of Eastern medicine. Now this is like 1996 to 2005. Eastern medicine is voodoo. You don't talk about it. You don't tell anybody. So I would have to travel to the backwoods. Yeah, right? And back doors. But I became a shaman, medium, and a Reiki master, and blah, 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 blah. You name it. I'm certified in it. But I never wanted to be a healer. I just wanted to feel better. And then one day, the building behind my restaurant, which was my office, my food storage, my liquor room, got struck by lightning and burned to the ground.
Oh,
I know.
Oh.
But in 2007, we're not thinking of divine intervention, right? We're not saying these things, and we're not talking about anxiety, and we're not talking about trauma, and there aren't meds yet, right? So I just built a building for zoning. And it came out, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I thought, what am I going to do now? I can't put food and booze in it. And the next thing I know, in about 3 months, I had the busiest wellness center in Fairfield County. In 6 months, I had healers coming from all over the world. We had gurus. We had fires, pujas, saw everybody dressed in people's dressed in saris. I mean, it was just nuts. But there was such a dichotomy because here I was over in my wellness center all day teaching or studying, and meditating, hamana, and then going across the parking lot to my restaurant to drink Chardonnay and work all night.
Yeah.
So, there was and I wasn't getting better. And that was the key. I went to India. That didn't help. And I came back and I met a gentleman named Dr. Gabor Mate. And for anybody who doesn't know, Dr. Gabor Mate is the most world-famous trauma addiction doctor today. At the time, he had just done his first TED Talks. And that was the great gift for me. I was in that age where everybody was just starting to come up. So I met Gabor Mate, and he talked about, it's not what's the matter with you, it's what happened to you. And he understood everything about me, in just this TED Talks. And so I looked him up, and I had sold the restaurant at this point because I realized I wasn't going to stop drinking, owning a bar.
Wow.
And I met him, and I sold the wellness center. I sold the property, and I spent 2 years traveling the country, to every trauma conference, every recovery center, wherever Dr. Mate was. That's what I did for 2 years. And then you get to meet really extraordinary people that are now famous. Dr. Joe Dispenza, now Dispenza's work, you try to get in, it's 3,000 people. I was in classes of maybe 50 to 100 people max.
Right.
And so there were great benefits in that. And then I came home. I'm still a mess, mind you, right at that point. And I came home, and I was like, I've got to figure out how to heal me. I've got enough wisdom on the brain and the neurobiological system and cancer and all these other cool people that I met. But most importantly, Dr. Mate. And I just did, and I created a modality of healing called the Colette technique for core trauma healing. I healed myself, was shocked, couldn't believe it, and started doing it on my friends. And then I met a mentor of mine, and she said, I think your work's really good. I think you should trademark it. And I did that about maybe 11, 12 years ago. And then started a private practice. And that's what I've been doing. And I love it. I love it. I do one-on-one, but for free, I do groups. I go to sober houses. I go to eating disorder houses. I just became a hospice volunteer. I'm just in the beginning of that. I'll let you know how it feels. I'm not sure yet, but I'm thinking if I could help people heal their traumas before they die, right?
Yeah.
Richard, you and I kind of had a convo, if it's okay for me, before your dad passed, and how
Yeah.
vital that was and how important that was for both of you,
Well, you
right?
have to, I agree with that.
Well, for our listeners, say what that was. You had a conversation with him, right?
Well, yeah, I had gone
Yeah.
home 3 years ago because my dad was very ill. I was supposed to stay for 5 days. Then he fell the day I was leaving, and I wound up staying for 5 weeks. And
Divine intervention.
but the best
Yeah.
thing that ever happened to me, because I got to spend every single day with him, even in the hospital. And then when we brought him back home, he was still in bad shape, and it was hard for him to get up the stairs. And one night I carried him up to bed, and we're sitting there. I pulled the chair over. He held my hand. He started crying. I started crying, and he looked at me and he says, I wish I would have did things different. And not only that, but I wish things were different now. And I knew in my heart.
I just got goosebumps. I've heard this story before, but I just got goosebumps. And that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say it. I am so full of Shakti right now. I know. And I've heard the story before.
It's so hard for people to say. I mean, that was his way of apologizing. It was that.
I think
in his way,
it's twofold for me, and I think the audience needs to know
so
that
too. I agree.
One, you have to be personally in a place where you can accept whatever the apology is and not read into it and be like, well, he really didn't say he was sorry though, and he didn't address all the issues. That doesn't matter. People have a hard time, especially my dad was an old-fashioned Italian from the Bronx. His generation, it wasn't about, I'm wrong, I did things wrong. He did the best. What I've realized in my life is we are all doing the best we can with the tools that we have, with the tools that we have acquired. And if you don't seek outside help like yourself to address those issues, sever those ties neurologically so that you can move forward and you're not living in the past and living with your heels dug in and be like, I know so many people that will never talk to their parents again and have said they were so horrible, whatever. If I told, let's
hope that they change their mind. But right now they're saying that they will never do that. But let's hope and give them space.
But I think he's right. There's I know an awful lot of clients that,
trauma is obviously an individual thing, and we all have to address our traumas in whatever modality we can to get past it. But my point is, you have to be willing to be willing to work on that trauma to get to the other side, because I don't want to hold on to this. And when he said that to me, I was so at a place of acceptance in my life. I did the work on myself that
You've done the work. Yeah.
I held his hand, I cried, and I said to him, Dad, I said, we're good. I said, I love you. I said, I don't want you carrying this to your grave. I said, so please do not take this with you, and don't think that I'm upset. You did the best you could. And I know that, and I love you, and everything that you've given me, I take away, and I take all the good things that you taught me, and I brought that into my life, and I'm a successful, happy individual today. So I don't want you to wallow in this and think that I am still upset with you, or I'm mad, or I'm not even saying. So many people say, oh, I'm the way I am because of what my parents did to me, or what my ex-wife, boyfriend, girl. No, you're the common denominator. How bad do you want it? And how bad do you want to get to a place of resolution with yourself? It's not about my father. When we make amends, when I make amends, I'm not making amends to relieve my father of his grief. I'm making amends so that I can relieve my own heart, so I don't carry this with me and take this into the rest of my life. But as a result, it was twofold, and we both got to heal. I can't even express to you how amazing and what an amazing.
Oh, you can, because it makes me feel it. You know what I mean? Like, because it was a gift for both of you, right? And even though I'm a trauma healer, and I'm very much into the science side of things, and I try to stay as Western as I can, I still have that Eastern background. And I agree completely with you that it was divine intervention, because you would have been back in California when your dad died. And you both got the gift of trauma healing in that experience. You both did. And most importantly, you gave him the gift of being able to go to the other side with peace. Like, that's why I'm a hospice volunteer. I hope it doesn't get to me. You know what I mean? I hope I can handle it. As I said, I'm just starting all this. I just finished that training.
That'll be an interesting
because
path.
of that reason.
That'll be an interesting path you're going to be going on to. Tell us a little bit about what the Collette technique for
so the Colette technique exists on Dr. David Hawkins' frequency scale. So everything has a vibration, and like Richard said, I think everybody is doing the best they can, even if sometimes the best they can is nothing. It's the best they can, right? And some days the best I got is nothing.
Something. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to sit in peace in order to recognize where you are, because that's how you move forward. Instead of fighting it and saying, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. I've realized, and I've come to a place that none of us are broken. We're just damaged. So if we could get, you know what I mean? Yeah, move forward. Yeah. Sorry.
Sometimes I say we're growing towards the light, but occasionally, just like a tree, we get covered by a roof, right? And we go sideways for a bit. But then we get a hit of that light, and boom, off we go. So we look at the vibrational scale, and I use that. And Einstein said no conflict, and this includes the conflict within ourselves, can be resolved. The same thinking, the same frequency, the same vibration in which it was created. So we have to change. So let's say I'm mad at Richard, and Richard, you're mad at me. Okay, nothing's going to change. But let's say my dog gets sick. Okay, I'm going to go into a different vibration. I'm not going to care about my argument with Richard. And so we're going to be at a different frequency. The conflict's going to be resolved, because I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, Gracie's ill. And you're going to know how much that means to me. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing's just going to resolve, right? By that love. But what my work does is, it's really fascinating when you look at the brain, because trauma is not what happened. It's how you felt inside as a result of what happened. And then trauma is a reaction. How do I react, right? How do I react in that relationship? How do I react with that boss? What's that, the buzzword trigger? But if you look at a trigger, the trigger is the smallest part of the weapon. It's the explosion that happens inside me. And that's what I have to look at. Why do if I find myself, I hate her. Okay, how old am I? Because this Denise isn't going to say that, right? This Denise isn't going to hate somebody. So it's looking at those things, but I'm not quite sure that we're capable of doing that all the time by ourselves, because these things, there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. And when you're a child, especially under the age of 5, you only have an unconscious brain. So you absorb everything as truth. You can't analyze. Brain analyzes 6 to 9. Children start to question Tooth Fairy and Santa. Prior to that, it's us. We're bad. We're wrong. We're unlovable. And Dr. Mate tells a great story, which I think really sort of describes it best. Is he was a 2-month-old Jewish baby in Hungary, Budapest, right before the Nazis invaded. And his mother called the pediatrician and said, "Can you come and see Gabor? He won't stop crying." And the pediatrician said, "I will, but I just have to tell you, all my Jewish babies are crying." What do Jewish babies know about Hitler? What do they know about genocide? Nothing. But they pick up
Right.
the energy of my mother. If
Yes.
my mother's not safe, I'm not safe. And here
Right.
comes the big one. If my mother's not happy, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable, and I'm not enough to make my mother happy. And that gets imprinted in a neural network in your brain, and it runs just like a ticker tape forever until we clear it, right? Until we go in and clear it. And so if I'm not lovable, what kind of romantic relationships do you think I'm going to bring in? If I'm not, you know what I mean? If I'm not safe, how many chances in life do you think I'm going to take? Right? I'm going to stay small. So what my work does is we go into we use the higher colors of the vibrational scale, gets the brain to a state of neural relaxation quite quickly. And then we bring in some gold light to wherever trauma is sitting in the body, right? And you're almost always going to know you're almost always going to find trauma in the neck, because the neck holds, I've got to control everything. I've got to keep myself safe, right? With you was first place I went was the neck. I said, we're going to stay here for a bit. And because that's the way it is. And then let's pop Eastern, Western there. Okay, so if it's Western medicine, what happens when we're stressed? What do? We tighten up, right? We constrict. Then we constrict the arteries that are right here. So the proper amount of oxygen, the proper amount of blood flow, etc., doesn't get through our body, affects our health, certainly affects our heart, right? And we don't get what we need. And then if we look at it from an Eastern standpoint, if energy wants to come in and get to our soul or our heart, it can't, because the neck says, no, I got it. I'll do it. And so that's how it really affects. So we bring in some gold light, and then I have you repeat something like, body, show me where this happened. Take me to the moment that it started. And you will go back to memories that you might have even forgotten happened, right? I had a memory. I had something happen to me when I was 4. I didn't even know it happened until I was in my late 40s, because I was trauma work. Because that amygdala, when trauma comes into a child under that age of 7, Aristotle said, show me the 7-year-old, I'll show you the adult. They knew back then. As soon as it comes in, like my life, my mother was an alcoholic, my father was an alcoholic, a rageaholic, my grandfather was an abuser. It's just crazy. So the brain gets too overwhelmed, and all that trauma gets shoved into the amygdala. That's its purpose. That's its job. So that the neurobiological system of the child doesn't go catatonic, doesn't get overwhelmed, right? And yet the memories can disappear, or they can subside, or you might have the memory of it, but you don't have the power of the emotion of it, but you're going to react from it. And so this work takes us back, and the client will say, oh, I see myself at 3. And then, okay, let's bring the present day self there. Because when we were 3, most of the time when we're in trauma, the people that are traumatizing us are the same people who are supposed to be protecting, loving, and caring for us. So
Yep.
there's no safety. There's no empathetic witness, to quote Dr. Peter Levine. There's nobody there. And we have to remember that when we look at our brains today, if you want to call it inner child work, you want to call it neural network work, it doesn't matter to me. There's 1,000 ages of Denise in here. So when I look in that mirror and I say you're fat, or you're ugly, or you look lousy today, I'm saying it to the 4-year-old who heard it her whole life. I'm saying it to the 3-year-old who nobody loved, right? And so it hurts even more.
Mm.
And it's just part of the ticket tape. So when you go back with the present day self, right? And let's say Richard, let's just use me because I don't want to tell Richard's story. Let's say I go back and I see myself at 4. Okay, bring the present day Denise there. Just squat down with little Denise. What's she feeling? She'll tell you immediately. Scared, unsafe, nobody loves me, whatever it's going to be. And you look around and you go, I get it. I know exactly how you feel. Either I feel that way today, right, still, or I'm looking around and you're right, I see Grandpa and I know what's going to happen. And so does she. And you become the parent, because that's who
Right.
you are now, right? That's who you are now. And if we don't love these imperfect versions of ourselves, who's gonna? And so it's taking that little Denise and saying, you know what? They were wrong. And I don't think they did hate you, sweetie. I think they hated themselves.
Mm.
And
Mm.
you're beautiful to me. And then we go someplace like a waterfall or something, and we place her. And then we go get some more. And then we go get another age and another age and another age till we can get as many as we can. And then we reconnect them, because that's what the brain does when it's in trauma. It disconnects or it disassociates, and it frees or thaws. So let's just talk about them for a second. Disconnect and disassociate. These are protective trauma programs that the brain creates so we can survive what we're going through, right? So freeze is disconnect and disassociate. Spacing out, YouTube, social media, alcohol, drug, whatever. Fawn is when I'm going to be a people pleaser. That's me. Put everybody else's needs before myself, right? And then so there's freeze and fawn. And then look at survival mode for a second. Let's say right now a bear jumped out at you guys. You guys would go, oh my God, it's a bear. Would send energy to your heart, and heart would send to your adrenal glands, cortisol levels rise, you're going to be able to run, fall and break your ankle, you're still getting up to run. What if you're a kid and you never know when the bear's coming home? What if you're a kid and you don't know what kind of mood the bear's going to be in? You're going to activate in that survival mode every minute of the day
Mhm.
until we change it, right? Because it's not safe to come out of survival mode. What happened when we were little? Not safe. So it's all those things. And then as soon as you do that, as soon as you reconnect with the younger versions of yourself, we're able, and Richard can confirm. Remember, I would say to you, can you feel what's going through your body? You can feel the neural networks, the neurons leave the gluey networks, because that's what they do. They have little gluey substances called neural growth patterns, and they stick. Leave. And now they've got to, just like everything in nature, look for something else at the same vibration to connect to. But they don't feel self-hate anymore. They're not feeling unsafe. So now what do we connect to? That's when we put new neurons in the brain. And that's how we run an instantly new ticket tape. And it's amazing. One session can be amazing.
So explain that again. You were saying the brain things, just the brain part about what are they called? What did you say?
The neurons, sure.
The energy that connects, then that now it no longer has a
Yeah.
connection.
So we have 80 to 100 billion neurons in our brain. Those are thoughts, those are emotions, those are old things, whatever. They're all thoughts and emotions. But what happens is they have their little, like I say, they're little dots. They have these little squiggly things on the end, like little tails. And at the end of those tails is a little gluey substance. And that's called a neurogrowth pattern. And just like everything in nature, they're all going to go looking. This is Hawkins' frequency scale. They're all going to go looking for something that's of the same vibration. So I hate me. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. I'm bad. Let's just take those 4. They're the same vibration.
It's
They're
that
going
thing,
to
like
connect.
attract like. Yeah.
You got it. They're going to connect to the gluey substances are going to connect to a neural network, and that's going to run the ticker tape of your brain.
What?
So you're going to go to apply for a job. You're not going to think you're good enough. You're not going to get it. Right? You're going to walk in with the intention of not getting it. You're not going to get it. You're going to go, you're going to meet somebody. You're going to think, oh my God, he's great. He's never going to call me. Right? So all those kind of things. When we go back, right, and we hold that younger version of ourselves, and we say something like they were wrong, or however it works, they were sick, they weren't well, those neurons then all of a sudden get the recognition that there's a new mom in town, that there's a new dad in town, that somebody new is now going to take care of me that actually seems like they love me. And those neurons come right off the network. Now they got to find something to attach to. And that's when we put in new neurons, right? We go up out of that dimension that we're in, and we go up into a higher dimension, a very, very high meditative state, if you will. Brainwaves in a higher, almost a gamma. Remember, we're down in a theta when we're kids. We're hanging out right now in basically an alpha and a beta. Delta's when you're asleep. Go up into a higher neuron vibration or brain vibration, and we put in the new ones. And we put in the new ones simply, one, by being in higher frequency, two, by having the conversation with the little one. And here's where we make deals and contracts. So one of the things that I like to do before I reconnect all the younger versions of myself or my client back with them, because again, they've disconnected and disassociated. So they're just hanging around the brain. So when we reconnect, sometimes they don't want to come in. So let's say 4-year-old, it's Felina, right?
Yes.
I'm pronouncing it correctly. Let's
Yeah.
see, 4-year-old Felina says, you know what? No, I'm not coming back. You talk crap about us. You never say a nice word about us. What do I want to come back for? You keep getting into the same relationships. You don't protect me. I don't want to reconnect with you. I'm going to hang out on my own here, which all of us who are children of trauma can completely understand, right? I'm going to hang out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make a deal with her. You got to say, okay, if you return to me and I start to do that, I start to talk lousy about us, I want you to stub my toe. And then I'll realize that it's one of you guys. It's one of the people, because we'll usually get 3 to 5 traumas in a session, right? It's one of you guys. And I'll stop. I'll acknowledge you. I'll apologize to you. I'll notice my behavior for the last couple of days. And I'll apologize. And I'll promise to do something really good for us by the end of the day. Because I may not be able to get to it right away, right? And they'll trust you. And that's how you build trust with whatever you want to call it. The unconscious brain, the inner child, the new self. Doesn't matter to me what word you use, so long as it works.
Wow.
And it's
This stuff-
extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I understand what you're saying, so I'm glad I had to ask that question because I wasn't fully with you, but now I get it. I want to hear what happened with so Richard, tell me about your experience.
I'm going to let Richard talk.
Yeah, what happened with like walk us through it,
because I don't want to break confidentials.
Yeah. I mean, I'll preface it with this. All of this stuff is so powerful. I think, first of all, you have to get, I think, to a place, we all have to get to a place that we're willing to look at, why do I feel the way I do? Why am I unhappy? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? Why do I keep bringing the same person to the table? Like you just said, whether it's an interview, whether it's a date, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel I'm going to get this. And then we don't even, I said this before, and I'll say it real quickly, but I believe that 80% of the people in the world are just completely unaware that we even have trauma or that there's something wrong. So that leaves 20%. Out of that 20%, I think only 10% are really willing to look at it. And
it's
then
becoming more acceptable
it,
to look at it.
it,
It's
it
becoming
is.
more.
It is. It really has been. Since 2012, it's really come back up onto the surface, which is beautiful.
Which is, yeah. So even if you know something's wrong, they didn't have a way to identify.
We didn't have a word trauma. We didn't
Right.
have that word.
Unless
It didn't
you found
exist.
the 12-step rooms or whatever, then you were kind of out of luck on knowing what to do.
12-step rooms don't talk about trauma either.
Some of them do. But
Bill W. tried to get trauma into the steps.
But not to the degree in what
in a different way.
we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
and then the other part of this, you know, I will say prior to saying what my experience is that what I've learned through the modalities and the work that I've done on myself, and I've been doing this for 30 plus years now, because I always felt unworthy, unhappy, not enough, not this, that, or the other thing. And again, like you said, it's how we were programmed. So along the way, it was programmed into me. You're not enough. You got to be better, bigger, better, faster, stronger, whatever that case may be. And what I personally, this is my own personal experience, what I have realized, and we were just talking about this, Felina and I, with the different therapeutic modalities, this is different to me. And when I first listened to Joe Dispenza, I said, wow, this is much different than the basic modalities of sitting on a couch for 50 minutes, blah, 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 every week, twice a week, once a week, whatever. And what I realize about myself, and I'll tell you a quick little story about this, is that I got to a place where someone pointed out to me and said, Richard, don't you think after 30 plus years of doing this work that you have some healing that's going on? But yet every morning you get up, you sit on your balcony and you journal for an hour. And I was journaling out of the Michael Singer Untethered Soul, which the first two journals was brilliant because it helped and it prompted me to address some of the issues. And then obviously you figure out what is going on in you, your family, whatever, and you address and you write about it. But then I was on my 5th journal. And
we were talking about this. It's like you can sit there, you need to go. Therapy is good. You go in there and you figure it out and you go and do the work. But then the wallowing is a fine line. It's like, okay, 2 times is cool. And then what were you explaining to me? I loved how you described like the other voice in your head was saying, oh, we got him now. We're just going to make him.
Well, what I like to call that voice, and I like to call that voice the addict, because the addict will always want you to come back and be comfortable and wallow in the shit and make you think that there's something wrong with me. I'm broken.
Comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Right.
And what I realized is the more, and this is basic. It's basic to us because we've studied this.
This is very big.
But the more you keep bringing up the past, and I'll refer to Joe Dispenza. Okay, he says everything is like a snapshot. So if you go to therapy and you constantly talk about the same trauma and you keep bringing it up, well, guess what? It's a snapshot and it brings you right back to that moment and you will be right back in it. So think about it. If
you're not living it once, you're living it over.
You keep living it over and over again.
So it happened today.
So then not only are you living it when you go to therapy, but then you're going home with it and you're journaling about it and you're writing it. So now it's in you every day. It's ingrained in you. And what I realized is I was taking that into my day and I couldn't figure out why I'm miserable. Why am I pissed off in the car, in the gym? So then a friend of mine said, don't you feel that all the work you've done on yourself, don't you feel you're at a level where you can kind of put that down? Yeah. I came home the next day, put the journal down, and I can't tell you the transformation from not continually living in the past, living in the trauma, thinking there's something wrong with me. I've got to fix this, to I am fixed. I'm at that level. And then I remember I got asked to speak at a meeting, and I went to this Saturday meeting and I got up there, and normally I would preface it and say, this is what happened. This is my experience. This was the past. And I said, you know what? I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not going to talk about what happened anymore. We're done with that. I'm going to talk to you and address this room. There was 100 people. I am going to address this room and address you in the healed adult man because of all the
Yeah.
work I've done. And I can't even
That's
tell you,
amazing.
I felt like I was vibrating and
Yeah. You were.
levitating 4 feet up in the air, and I'm looking down on everybody. There was
You were up here.
it blew everybody away, and it actually blew me away. So since then,
Yeah, let's talk about how, so if you did that, then how did you find this healing? Because it had to find new stuff for you. So what did Denise take you through? Like, take me through that process. Take our listeners through that process.
what we did is exactly what she said. We talked a little bit first, and we got to know each other a little bit, and I told her a little bit about my past and blah, blah, blah. And then
Was this on a Zoom or over
yeah,
the phone?
via Zoom.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
saw her.
Yeah, so I saw her.
Okay.
Then she asked me to close my eyes, and we went through this little meditation. She brought the light and asked me, like she just expressed, okay, so right now in this moment, what are you feeling? How old are you? And what is going on?
Where are you?
Oh, you just got emotional. What came up for you? Oh, yeah, it's there.
Yeah, and that's let me take over for him for a second.
Yeah.
That's what happens instantly for every single solitary one of my clients. Because it is not the emotion of Richard today. It is the emotion of the younger boy that was there. It is the emotion that he was not allowed to express because all of us had to buck up, shove it down, and go to school. Right?
Yeah.
And I said to Richard, I feel like I spent my whole childhood living in a bell jar, just in shock.
And
just
then you
in
wonder, right?
constant.
Think about what you just said. Suck it up, go to school. Then you wonder why you can't concentrate in school, why you're failing, why your guidance counselors is telling you, you're never going to go to college. You better get a job in the back of a garbage truck because you're there's not addressing the issue of there's trauma in the home and this kid can't focus in school.
They didn't know though. They really
No, they didn't.
And they didn't talk about it. It was
They
more
didn't.
like put out your.
And we really have Dr.
Mate
Mate to thank for that because he really brought it up to the world. I mean, the Boston Trauma Conference, just to use one, is in its 35th year. And I think, until the last 5 years, maybe a couple hundred people. Now it's a couple thousand. It's really coming out, it's really amazing. I was telling Richard, I'm writing a book that's just about finished, but it's the teeniest, skinniest little book. It is just basically how to heal your trauma. It's like our session. Basically everything we talked about, and then here, do it yourself, right? Because here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, because I can't get to everybody, right?
Right.
And I just want people to heal.
Yeah.
But and immediately just even asking him, the emotion came up. That's the emotion that back to that amygdala, that amygdala suppresses. And here's a really important thing that people don't understand. The minute the amygdala suppresses, it also suppresses your immune system at the same time.
Oh.
So that's our rise of addiction, asthma, psoriasis, Epstein-Barr, multiple sclerosis, lupus, fibromyalgia, colitis, Cancer, certainly, cancer's going to spread a lot faster from a weakened immune system. I'm not going to say you're going to get cancer because of a weakened immune system. That's somebody else's, decision to make. But that's what happens. And so there's that mind-body connection. And, here's the other thing that I think is important when we talk about relationships is that the line between authenticity and attachment is very tricky because you understand as a child, let's say this is attachment and this is authenticity. You understand that you can't give up the attachment. This is where I got to eat. This is where I got to sleep. This is where I got to live. So let's say you come down, let's use you so I don't upset Richard. Let's say Felina, you're 2 years old, you got a new tutu on and you just want to come down and show your mom and dad. So you come right down, you do a little swirl, and your mother says, "Not now, Felina." You're going to take that authentic self and you're going to push her down. And let's say that happens again in a couple weeks, you got a new lollipop and your parents are in the middle of an argument and they're like, "We don't care." Right? Here's your authenticity versus attachment. Now you get a little older and you're in a romantic relationship and your boyfriend wants to go out for Mexican food and you hate Mexican food. You're going to go because you don't want to wreck it. And it's
Right.
a Sunday, and he's being a real pain. You're not going to say anything because it's Sunday. We have the day off. I don't want to wreck it. Because my authentic self is not going to give up the attachment. And here's the thing about authenticity versus attachment. It is true that in your authentic self, you may lose some relationships. You may. You may lose some relationships being yourself. And that's going to be painful. But what pain would you rather have?
Yeah.
The pain
We've
of
been
being in a
talking about this.
relationship, yeah,
We
of
both
not being
we're
my
fine with that.
truth, yeah, or the pain of losing a friendship or a relationship that really shouldn't be there if I can't be my truth,
Yes.
right?
Interesting. You just brought up the thing about the immune system. I mean, and this is
Because
right
we didn't
here.
talk about that.
No, but and I didn't even think to talk about this with you when we did our session, but it just came
That's what
up
I
for me
mean.
like,
Oh no.
uh-oh.
I'm here.
So what just came up for me
You got
right in
me?
the moment, like a healing moment, is when I was younger, every year for about, I want to say 7-8 years in a row, I had to go to the hospital for Christmas, be put in the hospital, be put in an oxygen tank, and I had pneumonia. I had double
Every
pneumonia, I had
Christmas.
triple pneumonia. They thought I had Legionnaire's disease. I had to go down to the city. They did
You
a
got it.
spinal tap on me. It was the most horrible thing. I felt like I was a lab rat. Up until this moment where you just brought this up, I always thought to myself, the reason that happened to me was because Christmas and holidays were so miserable that I made myself
Yeah.
sick so that I could go to the hospital.
Yeah.
But now what I'm realizing is that wasn't the case. The case was my immune system was so compromised by living in the trauma every day and not being nurtured that's why I had to go to the hospital. And I'll be honest
And
with you.
that added pressure of the holidays coming and knowing what's coming began to make you sick. When I was a little girl, I was constantly taken to the emergency room for bronchitis, asthma, and
Yeah.
pneumonia.
I can't tell you how many times I had bronchitis. They put me on inhalers,
Yep.
this, that.
Yep.
And
Antibiotics. Yep.
But and interestingly enough, I got
some stories too, but
I got so used to going to the hospital that I looked forward to it, because when I was in the
Yes.
hospital, the nurses would come and treat me like a prince. They would bring me ice cream. They would have everything
And
that
I
I would
was
get.
and I was safe.
Yeah.
I
And
was
I was
safe.
safe. I could lie in my bed and not
Yeah,
worry about what was going to happen.
yeah.
Oh
Right?
my God. That's huge.
I mean,
You could.
how many, just putting the three of us together, how many of you have gone through phases of suffering of insomnia?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I have not.
Absolutely.
No, I have
Okay,
not.
absolutely. Well,
You weren't.
we
You
don't,
weren't
I don't know your
allowed to be
childhood yet.
sick
We didn't come from safe.
in my house. If
No.
you were sick, my father would rip you out of the fucking bed, get dressed, you're going
Yeah.
to fucking school. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yep.
You know,
No.
and who knew that it was a direct
Yeah.
result of the trauma, that your immune system was so fucked up, you know. And then, like you said about this, well, that I said about the school. So then you go to school, you can't concentrate because you're in a state of PTSD. Your cortisol levels are through the roof because you just left trauma, but now you got to go back home, and you don't know what you're going to get when your father gets home. So to go back to, like you said, what was the experience when I went through the session with her? It brought me back to when I was 8 years old. My father came home. My mother told my father I did something. He beat the shit out of me. I go up to her room to seek solace, and my mother locks herself in her room and wouldn't even come out to hug me or comfort me. And I mean, and these are the traumas you take through your entire life thinking.
And then we did quite a few, and it was all rough, they're all rough.
Yeah.
And and imagine why we were where we were at as we grew into young adulthood, and etc. What
And
what
again,
other outcome could there have been?
to come full circle, we take us with us. So wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go. If you
Yeah.
don't heal, yourself and don't look at the trauma that binds you to your past, you will never have a healthy relationship, a happy relationship.
Yeah.
You will just be surviving. And I don't want to survive. I want to thrive. And even,
That's right.
yeah, go ahead.
That's what you were going to say our topic was.
Yeah.
You just kind of said it almost.
We always,
we drop a topic on people. This has been so cool.
yeah.
So we really kind of passed it up, but let's bring it out just in case.
And you answered it in your bio with telling us, and
Let's see what she comes up.
the topic was going to be, how do you sever the chains that bind you to your past? And you explained that by doing the neurological. Yeah.
Maybe you have something else to add to. What do you think?
Well, no, I would say that's exactly that. You're set. Instead of I'm calling it sever the ties, I would say sever the neural networks, right? Sever the thinking, the automatic neural programs. I think somewhere in here you said something about familiar or something. That the brain, your unconscious brain, is always going to go for familiar. It thinks familiar is right. It's not right. It's just familiar. So I have so many people who will, like you said, date the same person over and over and over again, even though it's a lousy relationship, right? They're unavailable, they're unable to commit, they're abusive, whatever. But that's what love looked like to me.
Right.
Right? So that's what my brain thinks is love. So the nice guy who wants to date ya and oh my God, what a weirdo. What a weirdo. I want the unavailable, can't commit, neglect me guy, right? But no. And again, it's because that's the network in your brain. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not what's the matter with me, it's what happened.
Right.
And so you just go back and you look at these things that happened and you got to bring the present day self back. And that's what we do. And then we're able to, at that point, at the end, right? I was like, as I always, say to my clients as I'm midway through session, I know, but we'll be going to a good place in just a couple more minutes,
Hang on.
And then hang on, right? And we did. And we did because we have to. For me to change the networks, for me to put in the new ones, for me to change the programming that says I am worthy of love. And I'm going to prove it to you by when you guys stub my toe, I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to acknowledge you. And you're going to matter to me.
I always say, and I say this to Felina, you don't know what you don't know. So exactly what you're just saying. So to come full circle, if we don't do the work on ourselves, we're not going to know that there's a different way to do it, a different way to think, a different person to attract, because we are stuck in this modality of the program that was put into us that this is who we are. This is familiar. This feels comfortable. This is all I know. So I'm going to suffer through this, and half the people don't even know they're suffering because that's their truth.
I like
I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about that today, and I was kind of interested about it because I have such a variety of clients, from incredibly wealthy to free people that I do that can't afford me, and just such some come with sexual abuse and some physical, blah blah blah. But what I realized was that there's so many people that they don't want to do the work. They want that quick fix. And Richard knows that after my session, I will send you a couple of meditations because with Dispenza, we put brain monitors on people and heart monitors on people back then. Now it's changing DNA blood. And we see when we put those new neural networks in, that they need a little extra because we've lied to ourselves so many times, right? I'm never going to eat ice cream again. I already had some. I'm not going to eat chocolate. I'm never going to drink again. That I've done. So we have to kind of put these little, meditations in, and then those neurons really create and we run differently. But people don't want to do the work. They want a pill. They want a shot.
Exactly.
And it isn't always easy to do the work, but it's really kind of cool when you're in it. What would you guys say? I would say for me that the ways I don't do the work is when I get in a little lack of discipline. You know, maybe I skip the gym 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. You know what I mean? 2 days one week, and then it's 3 days the next, and 4 days. And that's important because, and then maybe I don't journal. You've got in your brain opiate receptors. You can see my hand, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They look just like this, a receptor. And what they need is an endorphin chemical or a dopamine chemical. Now, for a young developing brain, especially under the age of 7, that would be the mother's love and the father's motivation. Okay, both Richard and I didn't get that. Right? So we've got this gap. And when you have a gap anywhere in your body, but let's just use the brain for now, the brain is constantly going to go and try to find the gap, fill the gap. What fills the gap? Alcohol, sugar, any kind of a romantic relationship. And this is what I always say to people, you know, when you have regrets for being in a relationship with somebody that you know was unhealthy or not good for you, please always try to remember all you were looking for was love. All you were looking for was trying to fill the gap. Maybe you didn't choose right because of your neurons and the way you were raised. But don't think you were stupid or blind. You were looking for love. And I don't think there's one thing in our human body or in our human mind that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We do the best we can.
Interesting you say that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think a lot of people need to hear what you just said.
Exactly.
I do. I think a lot of people do need to hear that.
And, you know, one of the beautiful things when Felina and I started this podcast, and I think the reason I was attracted to her as being my co-host is because she does the work. You can, how can we do what we're doing if we don't understand one another and if we're both not doing the work? And as a result, we've built a really nice friendship, relationship, and we reason things out with one another. Like, you know, it's gotten to a point.
I can talk about anything I'm going through with Richard, and we can both speak the same language and get
and
to
you know what you're gaining?
What?
In that relationship, you're gaining a way to have your next romantic relationships.
That's true.
Right?
I also have a great relationship with my housemate. I have a male housemate. And we also have the same, we're not at all, there's no physical thing going on at all, but we have a really good friendship, and it honestly goes to every relationship, right?
And then you'll put it in place in the next relationship, romantic relationship, and if they can't react back to it, they're not the one.
Exactly.
Right? And you'll know that immediately because we've done the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it is exactly that work.
And again, it not only in romantic relationships, but like our relationship, like any relationship
improves with this.
You have to be open and willing, but you have to bring your authentic self to the table, your healed self to the table, and that's what you will attract, and that's how you get, you know, more authentic relationships.
When it's like the authentic word has been thrown around a lot, but what it means is that Richard can be himself around me. He doesn't have to put on an air. You know, a lot of people say he's intimidating. People say that to me sometimes too. And we don't scare each other. Like, we sit there and we talk. We're very straightforward. You know, we talk about stuff. We're also, you know, compassionate, caring. It's just a very honest, healthy.
And he's a great communicator.
All the time.
I think he's a great communicator.
Yeah, he's a great communicator.
Thank you.
Very great.
Oh, I think so. I, you know, I mean, I think you're safe. I felt so safe having conversations with you and sharing what I was, you know, my experiences, so that you could understand how we were going to work together.
I appreciate
it. You know, we had 2 full conversations. We had 1 session, but we had a 45-minute conversation just, you know, chatting. Other day before that. So
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You feel safe. Like, I know, the conversation is held. It's not going to be talked about elsewhere. We can talk about it.
Anonymity.
Yeah, it's
anonymity.
It's how I try and handle all my relationships now, you know, and I gauge, but I take my time with people to gauge if they can handle that and,
Yes.
allow them in. I'm a little bit hard to get to know, but once you're in, you're in.
I'm that.
Are
I'm a
you?
little bit hard to get to know. Yeah, I'm very still, I still, and maybe I always will. I still have that sort of,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I trust you yet. You
Well,
know
And
what I
that's
mean?
okay.
Like,
right, because I don't think
that's my
any of us
childhood.
want to get hurt. And what I
And also, I
think
think it
Yeah,
needs to be earned. I think trust
it
is earned.
does,
There's
I
a lot of
think so
people out there.
absolutely.
too. I think
And the
so
other
too.
part of it is, if I truly believe this, and Felina, I think, fulfills a lot of this for me as my co-host and friend now and everything, is that
Yeah,
a lot of people don't understand. Like she just said, a lot of people think I'm intimidating or I'm a little outspoken or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's not to be intimidating. It's that you're intimidated by me and by my truth, because
Yeah.
I've done the work on myself, and I'm not going to tiptoe around and, you know,
you
be
got it.
placated or no.
When somebody's in their own skin and has their own, knows their own
That
power,
exactly what you said was perfect.
that's exactly
Bec-
it. It's like we're not.
Yeah, because I say the same thing. Yeah, I'm a little direct, you know, but
Yeah.
that's who I am. And if
Well, I
you want to
think
hear my truth, great. But if you don't,
that's
that's okay.
why we kind of gel and got attracted to her on there, because like she is kind of a female version of me. She's very strong, very outspoken, very she
Perfect.
takes charge.
I
But
do.
Yeah,
I look at
yeah,
that and I don't get intimidated by that, because that's who I am. And
Right.
it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
Me
get
too.
after
Me
it. Let's
too.
do this. You know, instead
Yeah,
of taking the back seat and be like, well, I can't talk to you because you're a little intimidating and I'm afraid and blah, blah. No.
yeah.
Then
No.
you obviously don't know me that well.
Yeah.
It's because I'm honest.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
yeah.
bullshit you or gaslight you. And the problem is you don't want to hear the fucking truth.
Honest, but not
Yes,
cruel.
Right.
You're
Honest,
never
but not cruel.
We're not like saying,
yes.
literally just having the strength and being in our own skin sometimes is too much for people, because people are like,
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but that's on you, and
yeah,
I'm here when you're ready.
Right.
I'll
Say
listen
yeah.
to your story.
say what you mean what you say, but don't say
Yeah.
it in a mean way.
Yes.
I am never,
Exactly.
you
100%
come to
perfect.
me with stuff, I will have an authentic conversation with you. If you're
Yeah.
intimidated and you think that I'm going to fly off the handle because I'm this, that, or the other thing and smack you in the head, well, then you don't know me that well, and you don't even want to get to know me because you're intimidated, because you don't want to hear the truth and you don't want to do the work on yourself.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
conversely, though, people will come to me because they know I will talk the truth. I will speak the truth
Right.
with them.
Right.
Selena,
Yeah.
you'll tell me what it really is. Like, you'll give me the real, and I'll be like, well, I can tell you what I'm seeing, but I can't tell you what to do. Like, I
Right.
won't give you advice,
Right.
but I'll listen
Right.
to your story and
We
I
don't
can
give
reflect
advice.
back to you.
Right.
I learned
Right.
something from my mother, actually, that was very helpful. She would give us options. Rather than telling us what to do, she would say, well, you could do this, or you could do this. This
Well,
will
now
probably
that's
lead to
lovely.
there. This will probably lead to there.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? And it was a huge,
Wow, that must have been amazing.
that was amazing.
You
She
know,
was an
we
amazing
didn't get
woman.
that.
Yeah, she was an amazing woman.
When I
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've been
I love her.
sponsoring kids
She's
now
no
for
longer with us, unfortunately.
almost 30 years, and adults as well, through my program. And I always tell my kids, when they come to me or they sit around the table and they tell me what's going on, I say, would you like some feedback? They say yes. I said, choices and consequences. I said, you always
Yeah.
have to
Same
think
thing.
right, what your mom
Here's
said.
some choices.
Here's some
This is what's
choices.
gonna happen.
And here are the consequences.
think?
You should write
Yeah.
out what the choices you want to do. Think about the consequence before you open your mouth or make that move,
Right.
because you don't want to have to go back and make amends to someone you don't like in the first place.
You
Right?
got it. You got it. You got it. And
And
look, I
yeah.
think that we're all smart enough people that have done the work that we know what those consequences are going to be.
Yes.
Like, it's not that hard to figure out, right?
Now we do.
And so sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think my friends and my family are the ones that drag me down the most, because they're not here for a session, and yet, well,
And you're like, you need to
kind of, like, you kind of know what's the outcome, what's going to happen here, don't you?
Right.
But no,
Attraction,
let's not look at that.
promotion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, It's
I
it's a
know.
choice. It's not a good
I
choice,
know.
but it's a choice. You know.
You made a
I
choice. It's
know.
not a great choice.
Yeah,
Right.
I
How's that work? How's
agree.
that working out for you? You
Yeah.
know,
That's
like
exactly, when I was first getting sober, that was what my sponsor used to say to me all the time. And how's that working out for you,
yeah,
Denise?
Yes.
Ah, no way.
exactly.
I
You
just
know?
I just got sober too, so I'm joining you. I'm a year next month.
Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's huge. That's
But
huge.
again,
We
see
gotta
what
get
I'm
her a year.
saying? She's
We gotta
doing
get
the
her a
work.
year
She's not
coin.
afraid to look at it.
Wait, what?
Right.
Wait, what were you saying, Denise?
You gotta get a. I gotta send. Richard's gonna send me his address. I'm gonna mail you a 1 year coin.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
You
wonderful.
gotta have a 1 year coin. You gotta have a
Yeah,
1 year
yeah.
Wait
coin.
until I
I'm
get to that
mailing
one.
my 1 year coin. I keep getting moving them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That was my highest point because it
Was
took me
it?
4 years to get there. Yeah.
Oh,
So
did
when
it?
I hit,
I'm
yeah.
at, yeah, it's a month before, and I was just talking with a fellow about it yesterday.
What's your anniversary date?
My anniversary date is on December 10th.
Wow.
Mine's December 14th.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, we're very
I'll have 10 years.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
one.
You got
That's
tenure.
10, yeah. It'll be a big one for me,
No, that's a
10
huge
years.
one.
So
10
I'm
years.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah. When we both did
Yeah.
it before the holidays, which is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Which
So,
is
That is a
hard.
big deal
you
around the
know,
holidays.
Yeah.
holidays. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
interesting, real quick, just to go back to something you had mentioned about discipline. You know, to
Yeah.
me, discipline is everything. And the difference between being, because you had also mentioned the word motivation. You can be
Yeah.
motivated to do something, but discipline is when you do it, whether you want to do it or not,
Whether you're motivated or
Yeah.
whether
not.
you're
And then
motivated or
sometimes you're
not.
Yeah.
still motivated after, which is the craziest
Yes.
part. You're like, oh, I'm actually
Yes.
really happy I did that.
Yep.
I've been getting
Yes.
Yep.
better at that myself lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Especially
you
that
got to push
morning
through it.
practice, right?
That's what I started.
Especially that
I started a
morning
morning
routine.
practice.
Yeah,
Hmm.
between
Yeah.
the gym and meditating or journaling or whatever it might be, it's that I don't look at my phone for 2 hours after I wake up. I just won't do it.
Joe
I shut my
Dispenza.
phone down. Yeah, I shut my phone down usually around 5:30 in the afternoon. I
What?
just I try, yeah, I try because that's when I'll go to a meeting and I just try to turn back
Yes.
into Denise. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it's that discipline that isn't, and sometimes I'll say to myself, okay, you don't want to go to the gym, but let's drive there anyway. Maybe you'll go in. Maybe
Mhm.
you'll
Well,
just
now that
get,
I
and
drove
then,
all the way here, I better go in.
and then I'll go in and get on the spin, and I'll be like, oh, there's a spin class starting. Let me hop in.
When the
And it'll just
pandemic
get me
hit, they
right back.
closed all the gyms down. So
I
what did I
know.
do? I went out and I built a gym in my garage. So like all I got to
Did
do is walk
you?
down the stairs. So I got no
It's a great
excuses.
I
gym.
love that.
You know,
I
yeah.
found a trainer who would work outside with me. It was cold winter, but
Oh,
we did it.
Maron.
Oh, yeah. You're
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
Connecticut,
no.
right? You're in Connecticut.
Cold
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. But
That'll
we
wake
did
you
it.
up. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just I just started a morning routine a little over a month ago. It was actually on the 10th. So the 10th isn't my thing apparently. It was
Yeah. Well,
October
it's a
10th.
new beginning.
Yeah, that's right. It was October 10th,
Yeah.
and I'm doing something every day now where I get up and I immediately exercise right in my bedroom. And then I journal, like getting my blah thoughts out, just getting them out, or planning for the
Yep.
future. And then I learn something new, and then I start my day. So it's like
And
it's been
isn't it
really good
great?
because this one over here is so disciplined, and I have not been as because my career is I'm an author and I'm an actor, and either of those things have very little of somebody else telling me where to be somewhere except for on the acting jobs, which are not consistent.
Yes.
So it's like I
Yeah.
had to really learn this for
Mm.
myself. And when I got to the 21 day, it was a big deal. And when I got to the 30 day, I was like,
Yeah, it is a big deal.
I'm marking it on the calendar. And me being in the sobrieties helped me do that because having the marked day
Sobriety
makes you have a
helps.
feeling of achievement. So, that I actually did it rather than just remembering I did it. I'm seeing these little X's on each of the calendar's day, and I don't want to miss one. I don't want to miss one.
No.
So I keep doing it.
They say anything done for 21 days becomes a habit.
It's a habit now.
So now,
becomes a program in the neural network.
I guess what I got to do now is call her in the morning and tell her, get your ass over here and we're going to work out for an hour, really go through a workout. Yeah.
That would be great. I'm sorry I don't live in California. I'd be like, can I come?
I know, right?
I will.
Oh, you have to. You have to do it. This would be great.
I come out often because my youngest lives in San Diego, and sometimes I do some work in LA. I was just in LA in May for a while.
Well, if you
in
ever
Santa Monica,
come out,
actually.
You have to tell us when.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll work out with this one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We'll do some stuff.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it out there. And I lived in California in my early days.
Oh, what?
This was great. I loved doing this.
This was so great. What did you just say? You lived in California in your early days?
I lived in Encinitas when I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Oh.
And I moved back because I wanted to buy a restaurant and I wanted to do it around my friends, which didn't really, and in the end, make much sense because that's not who you really want as your customers. And so,
right.
But it was still fun.
But it was a support system for you. That makes sense.
Yeah. And 26 years was a great amount of time to own a restaurant. I will. Absolutely.
This was absolutely fantastic. And I think, number one, I got a lot out of this, session, number one. Number two, I think our audience will, gain a lot from your knowledge and learning some different modalities, how to, just try to work through their stuff, work through their trauma. So, I mean, look, we don't have to suffer and we don't have to go through our day, week, year, life, feeling unhappy. Happiness is the most important thing. And I'll leave.
Inside.
Yes.
There's no external thing.
Yeah.
It's not money. It's not a job. It's not an award. It's in here.
Abraham Lincoln, right? We're as happy as we make up our minds to be. So
you got it.
And it's like, just like we're severing those neural pathways in order to build new pathways. One of the things that I think our audience can do to try to maybe just get started in the morning, like you said, do your morning routine, your journaling, your meditation, whatever, but just sit down, write 5 things that you're grateful for. And if you can't do that, just keep writing. I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm happy. Just for today, I'm happy.
Reprogramming your old thoughts.
Yes.
And you can also get a hold of Denise. We're going to give your information.
And also, don't think small. You know what I mean? I'm happy. I have gobs of money in the bank. My life is amazing. I am joy. I am full of love. I am light. And just keep writing it every day, because all of a sudden, your body and your brain is going to start to take those programs and you're going to start to live up to those vibrations. And all of a sudden I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm joyous, I'm free, and all those things happen. And I think the one thing I just want to say again before we close is, because I love what Richard was just saying, is again to your listeners, it's not what's the matter with you. It's what happened to you. And trauma is a big word for the wound. It is actually a Greek word for the wound. And so there's wounds you can see, there's wounds you can't see, and trauma can be what didn't happen, right? Richard going to the door to his mother for love, not getting it, right? And there's so many times, I've had people come to me with severe loneliness, but it turns out when they go back, they were children whose parents both worked because they were very poor and they wanted to feed their kids and give their kids an education. So the boy would come home every day and no one would be there. And he felt like nobody loved him, nobody cared about him, he didn't matter. But there wasn't a trauma that anybody was trying to do, but it creates a trauma in the brain. Again, trauma isn't what happened, it's how you felt inside as a result of what happened.
And then, like we've been discussing, to reprogram that, Joe Dispenza, I wake up every day with a vision of the future. I've written it out. I know exactly what it looks like, where I'm going to be in a minute. And then me coming into this, I like to stay in my own lane, put my blinders on. Don't let anything distract you from where you want to go. You have to have that carrot. That carrot is going to drive you to where you want to be, whether it's success, like you said, money in the bank. Get after it every day. Get after it.
Get after
every
it
day. Every day I write, I'm a New York Times best-selling author.
Right on.
Every day. My book is in New York Times. And when I go running, I have a black lab who's sound asleep at my feet here. I run because I live near the beach, so I run every day down there with her. And I get to a part of the beach where there's no one, and I pretend I'm on stage for my book tour, and I'm closing at the 92nd Street Y in New York, and I think, "Good night, New York," you know, and I just do it, and it'll happen.
Felina is actually an author.
I know you said that.
But I'm doing steamy romance, though. I'm a romance author.
Still,
I love it. You're an author. You've got books published. Oh, good for you.
Right.
Congratulations. I think it's amazing.
I'm also writing down the I am this, I am that. I do that.
That's what you want to do.
I'm doing it 30 days in a row.
I'm so grateful for my Academy Award, right? I'm so thankful for my Academy Award. And I want you to make your speech every now and then. Don't write it, just say it. I want to thank all the people that helped me get here. Like, thank you so much. I'm so surprised I didn't have anything written, right? And
you got to be in it. You got to be in it to win it. Get off the bench. Get in the game. You know what I mean? Like, you can't sit on the couch eating Twinkies, watching I Love Lucy, and thinking it's going to happen.
I think it's going to come in. No, you got to do it. It was great. This is so lovely. Thank you for having me. I really had a lovely time.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure.
Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes.
You too. You guys too. Enjoy the 70 degrees. All right, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.